I've been a customer of Godox for a number of years. In fact, the very first LED light I ever purchased was the Godox VL200 and later the VL150, which were and are amazing lights until I sold them a couple of years ago to get some more high-end options. Because that's the thing about Godox. They've always been seen as one of the entry-level budget brands of lights. But the last 5 years or so, Godox has been behind the curtain developing the Godox Knowled line that may have completely changed that identity for good. Let me explain. What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're taking a look at one of the most versatile and well-designed lights that I've ever seen Godox come out with, and that is the Godox Knowled M600R, a large 600-watt fully RGB light that has most features that you would ask for when it comes to high-end professional lighting. So this light is not meant for the basic videographer or beginner YouTuber. This light is meant to be used in professional settings. Godox was nice enough to send this thing out to me to use on the projects I've been working on for the last couple of months, including some upcoming commercial projects I have in pre-production. So this video will be a technical breakdown of this light and my overall first impressions and recommendation. But Godox is not sponsoring this video, no money changed hands, and they don't get any input or review on this video's creation. Let's get started with what you get when you purchase this thing. The light itself and the ballast are stored in a rolling padded case. That thing is literally the size of a suitcase. It is a literal suitcase, but it has some nice padding in it and has everything that you need to get the light up and running, including an added safety cable, an antenna, and a quick release clamp for the ballast to mount onto light stands. You also get a high quality reflector. This thing is nothing like the cheap aluminum reflectors that you get with more budget lights. This is a well-built reflector with a plastic housing and even has some inserts for gels in the front, which seems a little bit redundant given that this is an RGB light, but hey, yo, whatever. Now, one interesting bonus and something that I really appreciate with the case that this thing comes in is that there's a packing guide on the inside of the lid. So many times I have unpacked a brand new light and then gone to pack it back up and I'm like, how the freak did I get this thing in here? So the added diagram on the top of it makes it really nice to keep things organized and just, it's easy to put back together. Now the light itself, as you can see, is big, a lot bigger than the other lights that I own, but it is a mostly metal design with some plastic parts here and there. You have a honeycomb design on the top and the bottom of the light with a fan and heat sink. That keeps this thing nice and cool, and with that bigger fan design, it also keeps it quiet. Now, one feature that I really love is that the LED on the front of the light is embedded into the housing rather than protruding out of the front like some other lights I've used. This lets you use a bunch of different accessories from other brands with the Bowens mount attachment on here. The yoke for the light is a strong steel and has an interesting quick release design about it. If you release the two buttons and latches on the sides of the yoke, you can remove the head entirely. I found it useful for some settings, like putting it on the floor for low lighting setups. But other than that, I think it was just a random bonus, but it does make it nice to move the stand around without having a heavy light attached to it. The light does tilt with a one-hand ratchet that is high quality, and the light attaches two light stands via a junior pin. But it does also have a baby pin attachment with the hollowed out point of the junior pin. Now this is cool and really innovative, meaning that it's useful not just on combo stands, but also on C stands. But the problem is there isn't a way to lock down the baby pin attachment. I looked everywhere in the bag and there was not a key included to lock it down. Now, typically you would use this light with a combo stand or a high roller on a set, but those stands are pretty dang expensive and I don't own one personally. I use them when I rent grip trucks, but in order to use this with my C stands, I bought a junior to baby pin adapter that was like 40 bucks. It's currently sitting on the stand right here, but that lets me lock down this bad boy no problem using the junior pin attachment. Moving on to the control ballast, that is also a fully metal design with some plastic parts here and there. There's the same honeycomb cooling system that is found on the light head. The top of the ballast has an OLED screen, a control knob, a CRMX port with an antenna for Wi-Fi control, a CP port, a power button, and a DC output for the lead cable to the light. For buttons on the top, there's a preset, lock, menu, and mode button. The preset buttons let you set up 20 different presets with this thing. So I've got one for my unboxing videos, a standard 5600K, and a cyan look for a project that I'm in the process of working on. I do also love the locking button, just keeping you safe from accidentally adjusting something while you're on set. There's also a bunch of ports on the sides of the ballast as well, including an AC input, DC input, LAN, DMX in and out, as well as a USB-A port for what I assume is software updates. The light does come with a quick release clamp for light stands, just like every other light out there nowadays. But being completely honest, the clamp itself is pretty low quality. It tends to get stuck pretty often and just doesn't feel nearly as nice as like an impact clamp. So I would definitely recommend getting a impact clamp or something more high-end to replace that clamp, because again, it's not the best. The lead cable from the ballast to the light is a premium quality cable with a locking design on both ends of the cable. The lead cable is perfectly long at about 26 feet, but I wish that the AC cable could have maintained the same quality as the lead cable, and I wish it was like 10 feet longer. For my adventurous filmmakers out there, this light is IP54 rated, meaning it is dust and water splash protected, or resistant, I guess. So if you want to grab a hose and start watering this thing down, well, you probably could. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. Now, there is no battery power option on the ballast unless you use the DC in port with an external power bank. This isn't super uncommon, but in my opinion, this is the biggest flaw of this light. When you compare this light to competitors like the Aputure 600C Pro Mark II, that is the same price as this light, the Aputure has the option to power with V or gold mount batteries. In my opinion, this will be the biggest deciding factor between the two lights, and I'm super disappointed that Godox didn't find a way to include that option on this light. Now, walking through some of the settings, the light in CCT mode ranges from 1800 Kelvin to 10,000 Kelvin. It also has a tint control from magenta to cyan. The main highlight of this thing is its full color control capabilities. You have several different ways to adjust color, including HSI setting, an RGB setting, preset gels that range in a wide variety from Lee and Roscoe, as well as an X and Y gamut color control. I mostly use the HSI settings, but those other settings will help you match certain setups or get more precise with this light. It also has a bunch of different lighting effects to choose from, which are very customizable, just kind of your standard list of effects when it comes to lights. The light can also be controlled over Ethernet or DMX settings, which I'm not very experienced in, but I'm learning slowly. This light also has an S-curve and dimming control. Whenever I review a light, I always get the question, how loud is it? Well, I'm happy to report that the fan noise on this light is very low, even at 100%. But you do have the options to control the fan settings from off, auto, medium, or high. The off setting will severely limit the output of the light to 10%. I've kept it on auto this entire time, and it's been just fine for my work. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, the app is simple for basic settings and use, but the rest, in my opinion, is not very user intuitive. But I actually think that's because the app is way more capable than I can attest to, or that I'm experienced in, I guess. Like I said, I'm in the process of learning DMX control, but I tried pretty dang hard to set up some DMX for fancier production options because it seems like this app has those capabilities. But for me, keep in mind, I'm still very much learning this type of stuff. It was really confusing. So to be frank, that's all I'm gonna say about the app because I stopped using it other than for just the basic, settings, changing color and using the gels and presets and stuff. But as far as further customization, I'm sure it's there. I just haven't figured it out yet. Now, my personal favorite way to use this light is actually using it doing what I do every single day, and that is product videography. So on a daily basis, I am down here creating videos for different companies about products, doing overviews, doing highlight reels, doing all that type of stuff. Product videography is my 9-to-5 type of work. And at first I was like, this light is super overkill for that type of stuff. What am I doing? But then I remembered something about product videography. You are shooting at extremely high apertures, meaning f8, sometimes even f16. And that means that your lighting output needs to match those slower apertures. So having a 600-watt light like this gives you not only the versatility to have that type of higher output so that you can match those slower apertures, but because it is RGB, you can now introduce colors into those product videos. So I don't know if you've seen recently, I've been doing a lot more color integration into my backgrounds and product videography just on my YouTube channel and social media, because this gives me that capability. So for example, in order to add color to some of the B-roll or to my unboxing videos, I was using this setup, the Amaran 300C and the Amaran SE spotlight system. This was great, but the problem is this is half the output that the Godox is. And a lot of times I had to either adjust my f-stop or I had to adjust my fill light or my key light in order to adapt to this lower output, which is fine and it worked, but this makes things a lot easier and looks a little bit more professional. Now the trade-off is that, it's 3 times the price. Like I mentioned earlier, the Godox housing embeds the LED system so that you can use third-party accessories like this Amaran spotlight here. So having a little blend of brands here for a second using the Amaran and the Godox, we can get a nice little spotlight attachment where we can use gobos, we can shape the light with these bars here. And Godox does make their own spotlight attachment as well. That's a little bit higher quality than this thing. It's also a lot more expensive, but it is specifically made for this type of light. But it is cool with those embedded LEDs into the housing. It does let you use separate accessories from third-party brands like that. So yeah, personally, this is where you're gonna see me using this light the most, is in product videography settings, but I still work on set quite a bit, and I will take this light with me for key lighting, for color, for commercial, for all those type of projects. But definitely this is where I'm gonna use this light the most. When you get up to the price range and capabilities that this light is in, I don't think you're gonna be disappointed in the light output and quality of this light. For me, I was paying more attention to other factors like build qualities, size, functionality, weight, flexibility, and IP54 rated. Because until you start working with lights like airy sky panels or airy orbiters, color accuracy and light output, in my opinion, are going to be so similar in comparison, like across the board in this price range. While I was testing this light, it was on sale for $1,600 US, which at the time I thought was a great deal compared to like the Aperture 600C Mark II, which is $2,500 US. Well, right now, when I started recording this A-roll, I checked the pricing again and the Godox went back up to $2,500, which makes my recommendation between the two lights a little bit more difficult and more complicated. I've used both the Godox M600R now and the Aperture 600C Mark II on professional commercial sets. And comparing the M600R to the Aperture 600C, this light is a lot bigger and heavier. On top of that, it doesn't have the V or gold mount battery support that the Aperture has. If you're a beginner videographer or YouTuber, I wouldn't recommend the Godox or the Aperture. In my opinion, they are super overkill for the stuff that you would be doing. This light and the 600C are meant for working on bigger productions. As a gaffer or cinematographer, I also see it being useful for product videography, as that's where I've been using this light the most because of its higher output. It lets me actually have a strong RGB output with a Fresnel or a Gobo attachment while still shooting at f8 or f11. Now for production industries, a junior pin will be no problem whatsoever. But for a beginner videographer that just discovered C-stands, I would be nervous to use this unless you had that baby to junior pin adapter. And because this light is so big, you can't slap it on a basic light stand from Amazon. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or a con when it comes to this light. I'm just trying to give context and identify who this light is actually for. However, I do think that there are some really great alternatives to this light that still have the same output that might be better suited for beginners or YouTuber videographers out there. I think if you're in between the Godox M600R and the 600C Pro Mark II, if this is on sale, then I think it's a great option. But if it's not on sale, I think the Aperture is the better buy because it's smaller, has battery power options on the ballast, and it's the same price. Godox just announced the new Lightmon's LA600R, which is basically the same light as this light, but it doesn't have the control ballast and it's significantly smaller. I'm excited to test that light out. I'm planning on getting my hands on it, and it's like $1,500 less than this light at $900. You also have options from Nanlite that are more affordable, like the FC500C and the Colbor CL600R. I haven't used either of those lights personally, so I can't really vouch for the capabilities of them, but they are cheaper options if price is all you're worried about. If you don't need a 600 watt output, then the Amaran 300C or the Godox LA300R would be fantastic options and most likely the best options for most creators. Now, as much as I love this light for its different pro capabilities and features, it definitely is not going to be a daily workhorse for me. But this year, I do have a lot of production opportunities where this light will be my main light that I use on those sets. I already had projects this year where I gaffed on commercial sets and used this light for the majority of those shoots. And in one of those commercials, the RGB setting came in clutch because the client that we were working with wanted to match the color of their brand and to light an entire space. And this light, with its 600 watt output and its flexibility with the app and matching colors, made that setup so much easier and faster because, to a producer, time is money. But to the cinematographer, money is time. What? I think if you're a professional gaffer or cinematographer that works on sets on a consistent basis, or if you're working in a studio that requires higher output light and full RGB flexibility, then this light is a great option, especially when it's on sale. But if you're a videographer, a one-man band, or a basic ad YouTuber, then maybe the LA600R or the Amaran 300C or the Godox 300 would be a better option. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful in your search for high-end professional RGB lighting. I absolutely look forward to finding more ways to use this light on projects this year. And of course, I'll make sure to report any interesting findings right here on my channel. But if you enjoyed this video, maybe watch this video next, and don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell button so you never miss out on new young filmmaker content. Good luck filmmaking.